Hello everyone, my name is James and today we'll be solving Leetcode number 1, 2 sum. Given an array of integer nums and an integer target, return the indices of two numbers such that they add up to the target. You may assume that each input would have exactly one solution and you may not want to use the same element twice. You can return the answer in any order. So within our example number 1, we have a nums array and we have a target that's equal to 9. We have to return two elements of their indexes that add up to 9. So we see that index 0 is going to be 2, index 1 is going to be 7, index 2 is going to be 11, and index 3 is going to be 15. Within our output, we see that we're only returning index 0 and index 1 because 2 and 7 add up to 9. So how would we go about by solving this problem? Well, there are actually at least two ways we can solve this problem, and I'm going to be going over each and every single one and going over their time complexities. So when solving this problem, we can do a comparison by checking if our two elements sum up to the target. We can have a nested for loop in which I have demonstrated right here. And what we're doing is that we're doing a comparison to see if our nums I plus our nums j equal to the target. So in this case, our I is going to start off right here, and our j is going to be starting off here. We had to compare if 2 plus 7 equal to 9. In this case, they do. So what we're going to do is that once we've done our iteration and once we've done our comparison, we're going to return an array that stores our index of I and our index of j. And while this method does work, it's not really efficient since we're iterating through the array twice because we have a nested for loop. Our time complexity for this is going to be big O of n over 2. So is there another way? So what we can do is actually just do this in linear time. So we can just iterate through the array once instead of using a nested for loop, and we're going to be also be using a hash map to store our key value pairs. We're also going to be calculating the sum by getting the target and by subtracting the nums iteration. So in this case, our target is going to be 9 minus the current iteration in which our nums array is. So in this case, we're going to start off with 2. 9 minus 2 is going to equal to 7. We're going to check to see if the sum exists within our hash map. So in this case, it does. We will then need to return the array with the two indices. So in this case, we will just be returning 1 alongside with the current iteration, which is going to be 0. If no indices match the target, then we just return an empty array as a default. This makes the time complexity big O of n, making it much more efficient than just using a nested for loop. So now that we've gone over the solution, let's start coding it up. So we're going to be creating a hash map. We're going to be iterating through our nums array, so let's create a for loop. So let I as our index going to equal to 0. Our I is going to be less than our nums.length. We're going to have to create a variable to calculate the sum, so let's say sum going to equal to the target minus our nums of I. Next, we're going to be adding each element onto the hash map. So hash map dot set our nums of I and our index. Next, we're going to check if the sum exists within the hash map. So we're going to say hash map dot has our sum. Then we're going to be returning an array that has the hash map sum and our index. So we're going to be saying hash map dot get our sum and our I. And for any case, if any of the elements within our nums array doesn't equal to the target, then we could just return a default empty array. So let's start running this. Awesome. So let's start submitting it. So looking at this, we see that it's a lot more efficient since instead of just, as I said, using a nested for loop, which would not be as efficient, but by using a hash map, we pretty much make this as of now we can make this as big O of n. And as we see here, the time complexity is going to be big O of n. And as for the memory of the space complexity is going to be big O of n. So hopefully that was a much more simplified version of like the two sum, and hopefully I get to see you guys in the next video. Thank you.